Alright, hello guys, how's it going? In today's video, we're going to be talking about that snowstorm that we talked about yesterday, and this one's looking a lot more major as we move closer and closer towards that storm. Looking like the totals could be a bit higher and more widespread, so let's get right into this one. But before I get started with this video though, I would ask that you do subscribe if you do like weather-related content, and also make sure to share this with your friends and family on social medias if you think they will find it interesting or useful. Now, let's get right into things. We're using our high-resolution NAM model here for simulated radar. So we're going to get into this one. You can see a lot of blues going on there for Ohio, Kentucky, Indiana. This is where we have some snow showers just to the west of where our main low pressure system is located. This low pressure system is very weak and it's located over Pennsylvania and West Virginia, but it is going to very rapidly relocate to just offshore of the mid-Atlantic states, and this is a pretty common occurrence. We do see this happen a lot where the low pressure transfers out to sea and then starts to rapidly intensify. So let's move on a frame to 12Z Sunday. That was pretty much tonight, so Saturday, November 23rd, maybe 12 a.m. heading towards the 24th, obviously. And then this is by morning time, Sunday, November 24th, probably around 8 a.m. We see more widespread snow, and we do see that low pressure system has relocated to just about over New York City as a 994 millibar low pressure system, and it's going to rapidly intensify from this point. Almost borderline bomb cyclone type storm here, but not quite. We do see some moderate snowfall going on for central Pennsylvania through West Virginia and then up through some of the upstate regions of New York. As we move on, though, it's about to get very, very snowy as we see that low pressure system rapidly intensify and that snow get heavier and heavier. You can see here by Sunday afternoon, probably about 1 p.m. time frame, we can see that there is a 988 millibar low pressure system. And that snow is intensifying here as we see some of those deeper blues showing up for eastern Pennsylvania through upstate New York and into some of the central regions of Vermont and New Hampshire. And this looks to be our bullseye zone actually up through Maine as well. We'll see that in a second. But we do have a 988 millibar low pressure system located just over Long Island and Connecticut, bringing heavy rain to some of those southern New England regions and moderate to heavy snow for some of those more northern New England regions. Let's move on another frame to a little bit later in the afternoon. This is probably about 3 p.m. We see it's a 985 millibar low pressure system located close to the Rhode Island and Connecticut border there, almost there. We do see that snow becoming heavier and heavier for some of those eastern upstate New York regions through some of those central and southern Green Mountains regions in Vermont. We do see some pinks showing up, and that could make a little bit of a challenging factor to forecast here and could lead to some mixing in some areas, and that's why some people might bust. But overall, we do see a lot of these regions becoming widespread with our snowfall amounts, so there might be some regions that are underneath because of mixing, but I think overall most areas should do fine. Now, here by, I would say this is about dinner time on Sunday, November 24th, we see a 983 millibar low pressure system located right near Boston, and by this point we see very heavy snow going on for central Vermont through central New Hampshire, so right from the Green Mountains to the White Mountains north of Lake Winnipesaukee there. And this is going to lead to, again, these regions being pretty much the bullseye, and you can see all of Vermont and northern New Hampshire is basically receiving at least moderate snow by this point. So a lot of these areas are going to be seeing large snowfall totals, but really those deeper blues in the central regions looks to be the most. Now we're about to move on and see Maine get impacted very, very heavily by some of these snowfall amounts here. As you can see, this is by getting about nightfall on Sunday, November 24th here. I would say maybe 6 or 7 p.m. here by this point. We see a 981 millibar low pressure system just located off of Maine. Again, in my most previous video, I did mention that the further west this one goes, the better as far as heavy snowfall for New England. And this one is pushed very far west, almost onshore of Maine and Boston. This is going to lead to more rain for the southern halves of these states, but really a lot more snow becoming prevalent throughout the more northern and interior and high elevation regions in New England. We are going to move on to the middle of the night, Sunday night, into Monday. So this is probably about 12 a.m. November 25th. We can see it's still a 981 millibar low pressure system located just over Bar Harbor there in Maine, and we see moderate to heavy snow for northern Maine, areas like Caribou, down through the White Mountains. We see moderate snow, but mostly that northern and western half of Maine receiving the heaviest snowfall in the state of Maine. As we head more towards 2 a.m. on November 25th, we see it has gone down 1 millibar to 980 millibar low pressure system, and it's moved a bit further north, obviously. And we see that moderate snow, it's reaching the coast in some regions potentially, but I think that there will be mixing issues right along the coast during the entire course of this storm. We still see snow showers going on for some of your Adirondack, Green Mountains, White Mountains as well, but really Maine is receiving the heaviest snow at this point in the storm. And by the time we reach Monday morning, maybe 9 a.m., we see it's almost said and done. Basically, we see some moderate snow showers going on for some of these regions, but not a lot at all. And by the time we're at Monday afternoon, November 25th, it's basically all said and done and out of here. It's basically gone. We do see some flurries going on, but that shouldn't be leading to any sort of, snowfall totals. Now, we're about to get into that total wind that you could be expecting, and we're going to take a little bit of a look at that. There could be heavy wind along the New England coast, including Maine, Boston, Cape Cod, Nantucket, Martha's Vineyard. All these regions could be receiving a lot of wind with this one. All right, as you can see in those greens and yellows, that's where we particularly want to pay attention, because that's where we're looking to potentially get over 20 knots of winds, maybe even in the yellows receiving closer to 30 knots. You can see not a lot of those yellows come on shore, maybe the northern portions of coastal Maine, as well as some regions in Long Island, as well as Nantucket, Martha's Vineyard, and Cape Cod receiving a lot of those greens and yellows potentially, as well as down the Jersey coast and then through the Delmarva potentially as well. So we do see some heavier wind with this one. Now, we're going to take a look at some of the model snowfall forecasts here. We're going to start with our NAM 12KM, since that's the model that we were looking at before. You can see that a lot of the heaviest snow is through northern Maine and then northern New Hampshire, through the central regions of Vermont and into some of the regions in upstate New York. We do see a general 1 to 3 inches in those lighter shades of blues from Pennsylvania up through upstate New York, Vermont, New Hampshire, and a lot of Maine. But it's once we get into those purples and pinks, that's where we're looking at 4 to maybe even 10 inches of snow in those lighter pinks. Here's the NAM 3KM, which is a little bit more HD, and you can see that they're indicating higher elevation snow there for the state of New York. We can see in some of those Catskills, we see the purple and pink showing up again, indicating the heavier snow through the Green Mountains, White Mountains, and up through interior Maine as well. This is where we see again those purples and pinks showing up. Here's your GFS model though, which is showing a little bit of a heavier snow event through New Hampshire, a little bit of Vermont, but mostly New Hampshire and Maine there. Where we see those pinks and even greens is where we're looking at 6 to even up to 12 inches and above in those green regions there. We see potentially more than 12 inches. I don't think this will happen, but we do want to look into the potential for that much snowfall. And then last but not least, here's our GEM model, which is the Canadian model. And we see from the areas just to the north of Albany, through the Green Mountains, through the White Mountains, and up through northern Maine, we do see those areas of 6 to 10 inches of snow and even more in some of those green regions. It is interesting to see multiple models showing 12 inches plus in some regions of New Hampshire there. We saw the GFS put a little bit further south, and now this GEM model is showing it as well, just a bit further north. I'm not forecasting this to happen, but again, still possible. All right, now let's get into our official snowfall forecast. We're going to take an exciting look at this final forecast for this major snowstorm for interior New England. As you can see, this area is a dusting to 3 inches, and this one hasn't really changed a lot from my video yesterday. We see some areas in Massachusetts receiving a little bit more in those mountain ranges. I've pushed the dusting to 3 inches region a little bit further south. And then for coastal Maine, I pushed that line a little bit further north, as I think we're going to be seeing warmer temperatures just on shore there for areas like Portland, Bangor, areas like that. Now, let's add our second layer, which is our 3 to 6 inch layer, and you can see from the areas, again, just to the north of Albany, to the north of Scranton, mostly on the New York side, and then through a lot of those central Vermont and New Hampshire regions for the White Mountains, Green Mountains, and really the northern 2/3 of Maine, all looking to receive 3 to 6 inches of snow with this event. Now, as we add our third layer, we do see that 6 to 10 inch layer, again, north of Albany, through central Vermont into northern New Hampshire and northern Maine. This is an area I expect to see at least scattered amounts of 6 inches plus, and again, some of those models indicating 10 inches plus within some of this, so that's not out of the question here. Anyway, guys, I hope you really enjoyed this video for this major snowstorm for New England. Be sure to share it with your friends and family on social media, whether that be Facebook or any other sort of social medias, and I'll see you guys in the next video.